Well, welcome back to the kitchen, everybody. This is Brandon, the Little NC Farmer, coming to you again today. This is probably, I think, my first video I've actually made in 2024. Today is actually February the 20th, I believe it is. And so this will be the first time. But what I'm wanting to do today is make my cornbread from my cornmeal that I have ground myself. And this is something I've actually been meaning to do since back last year when I still had some. And another thing, I have a recipe for Mexican cornbread that's my mother's recipe, really. And I'm going to probably put that in a card at the end of this video. And I will also, in the description, I will give you the ingredients and the directions on how to make it. And so I hope that'll be a help to you. But it's just some basic ingredients. It's really nothing fancy. And I'm also going to show you a little tip that I use. This will always work for me regarding it sticking to the pan. Now there's some people will heat their pan up in the oven. I think my mother will do that on occasion. And I'm not going to do that. I will show you how I do mine. And so let me get everything together. I'll show you the ingredients that I use. And we are making this from plain cornmeal. It is not like the self-rising that you will get at the store. This you will have to put your own leavening ingredients in it so you can get the cornbread to rise. So let me get geared up and we'll get at it. Alright guys, this is some of the cornmeal that we grew this past summer, corn that we grew. It is, this was the little cob, or pencil cob, no cob, some people call it. I'm going to use 2 cups of cornmeal. I don't add no flour to it. And try to get that. There's actually going to be just a little more than 2 cups, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Alright, I'm going to bake this in my cast iron frying pan. And this is what I do to prevent it from sticking. This is just part of the process. But I will put just a little bit in here. And we're going to dust this pan good with cornmeal. And then what's left over is going right into the bowl. So we'll set that aside. I'm not done with that yet, but I'm going to put just a pinch more. I think that'll work. And we actually turned out quite a bit of cornmeal. I was well pleased with that. Now these are the 3 ingredients that you will need for your leavening. Now this is kind of my measurements that I use. I guess it would be personal taste, but I definitely need the salt in it. There's 1 teaspoon, and I'm going to actually go 1 1/4 teaspoons. And this is very important. Now there is I'll say more about this in a minute, but this is baking powder. I'm going to go with 3/4 of a teaspoon. No, take that back. I'm going with a full teaspoon of baking powder. This is what I go light on, is the baking soda. And I will go with 3/4 of a teaspoon because I do not like a heavy soda taste in my cornbread. You know, I know it has to be there, but I don't want it overriding the corn taste. Now, let me get a spoon. And what we'll do here, we want to kind of blend this together, incorporate it together. And while I'm doing this, I'll say this: if you use buttermilk in your batter, you better have baking soda in it. Years ago, if you've ever watched Justin Wilson, I think he made mention of that in one episode. I remember him making cornbread from plain cornmeal. And I don't know if the buttermilk has some kind of reaction with the baking powder that it doesn't have with the baking soda, or vice versa. But I do know that the baking soda needs to be in that batter if you're using buttermilk. And you could probably get away without using it if you just used sweet milk or whole milk. Okay, now we are ready to mix our wet ingredients to this, and I am using coconut oil is what I'm using here, and I've got roughly 1/4 of a cup of melted coconut oil. I'll be putting that in there. And I don't know if I mentioned this, my oven is preheating to 450 degrees. That seems to be the sweet spot for cornbread for me. Your oven may do different, and I think a lot of it depends on the whatever you bake it in, whether you're using a cast iron pan or just a regular plain aluminum pan or what have you, or a glass dish for that matter. But the 450, using this pan, that seems to work satisfactory for me. But I want to say something regarding baking bread. If you are baking bread and it says a preheated oven to whatever degree, be sure that that oven is at that temperature before you put your bread in there. I am not going to have this ready to go in the oven until that oven is preheated. My grandma had a thing where she said, watch that light, and when that light goes out, then we can put the bread in. And so we're going to go with that practice today. Now, let me give it a few more minutes, and while that's happening, I'm going to get my buttermilk ready, and we'll get back and mix this up. Okay, now maybe the cornbread, the oven will be warm by the time I get this done. But that is roughly a little over a cup of buttermilk, and I'm going to actually, y'all know me, I stretch stuff. So we're going to put about a cup of water to that. And overall we want about 2 cups of liquid going into this. Milk, buttermilk, milk and water. And I've got 1 beaten egg I'm going to pour in there. Yeah, the oven just knocked off, so it's ready. And I'm going to go ahead and add my coconut oil. Now you can use lard, you can use shortening, canola oil, whatever you want to use there. I will tell you from my experience in using lard, and it makes a great oil or grease for breads, but it don't take quite as much of it as it would, like shortening or canola oil, or in this case coconut oil. But I like my batter to be kind of runny. Well, I say runny, maybe loose, I don't know. And you can see about how the consistency is of it. But this is all there are to it. Just be sure you get everything blended well. And It's fixing to go into a 450-degree oven. That's crucial in cornbread sticking to your pan too. But there's some other tricks to that I'm going to deal with as we come to it. And we're going to level this out. And by the way, I just used a regular cooking spray in this pan, and then I poured my cornmeal into that and dusted the pan, kind of like you would if you were baking a cake. Okay, I'm going to place this into a 450-degree oven. It's probably going to take about 15 to 20 minutes, and I'll be back when we're taking it out of the oven. Alright guys, right there is what you want to see. It's golden brown and it's starting to turn loose around the edges. Now, this is another tip that I was going to tell you about. Let this cool for just a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes. I've got little critters over here wanting to play with my camera cord. But just let this cool and rest for about 5 minutes and see the results. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let this rest here, and then I'll be back and we're going to get it out of this pan into this plate. All right, there you are. It takes a little persuasion sometimes, but that got it. And hope y'all find this very interesting. I can't wait to get into this a little later on in the day. It is morning right now, but this is going to be my lunch. Okay, well guys, what I'm going to do in the end, I'll put a couple of cards here in the screen. And one of them is going to be the Mexican cornbread that you can actually take the self-rising that I made here and use that in that recipe as your 2 cups of self-rising cornmeal, if you'll mix it like I've mixed this with the dry ingredients. And also I'm going to put in the cards making or grinding the cornmeal from last year. That way you can see the entire process. Now, what I may do is do a playlist on cornmeal and cornbread, because I have another recipe that I want to share with you on hush puppies. Now, with that being said, years ago we would always go to the beach, and we always went to Ocean Isle. And I think I've got some subscribers that's commented. We've made connection over that. But we have, over the years, that's where we would always go. And then if we went out to eat, which would be like maybe once or twice during our vacation, we would always go down to a little place called Calabash that is right on this little town. It's right on the border, or just before you get to the border of South Carolina, and down Highway 179. And if you get into Calabash, there's a stoplight that you can make a left on or a right, depending on which way you come. I can't remember the name of the road, but it goes out to several different restaurants. I think Ella's was out there, Seafood Hut, which is one of my favorite, Dockside, Captain John's maybe, and Captain Nancy's, I believe. And it seemed like there may be a pizza place out there or some kind of Italian restaurant. I also know the Boundary House is there, and Beck's Seafood is out there. But if you go down that stretch, I've eaten at most of those places, not all of them, but most of them. But the seafood houses, they had a unique hush puppy that around here, they're not like that. Most of them around here, they have onions and other things. But I had tried for years to learn how to make that hush puppy. And I'd get close, but it never was spot on. But I think I found it, and I stumbled on it really by accident, and I was amazed at how simple that was to do. And I want to share that with you, and hopefully in the future, near future, and I'll put that in a playlist with this as well. So guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this, and hope that if you don't know how to make it from scratch, it's really easy. There's nothing to it. And hopefully you'll try this and it'll work for you. And guys, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate you being patient with me right now. And it's just there's not a lot to do in the dead winter time. And then plus it's hard to work and keep all of this together as well. And so anyway, I appreciate your watching and your support greatly. And so anyway, I hope this will help you. So y'all have a great day, and thank you from Little NC Farmer.